Chef Chris Carton from the River Center in the Adler Theater. And today we're going to do a crown roast of pork to end our holiday sessions that we're doing together. So let's have some fun. We're going to jump right into it. This is a finished crown roast of pork. This is a traditional holiday Iowa special. Midwestern comfort food down to the core. I have a lot of fun with this sauce. We're going to twist it up and throw some really fun things at it. This is a salted caramel whiskey. This is going to be one of the key components. Dark sweet cherry is the glaze with salted caramel whiskey. And we're going to use some onions and some juniper and some other things. The crown roast of pork comes as a whole flat rack. This is called Frenching the bones, where we scrape everything off the bone, and then this foil wraps around each one. Keep that bone nice and white through the roasting process. So then what we do with the recipe that's attached is the crust, the herb crust that I have here. There's 10 different ingredients in that herb crust, so instead of naming them all off, it's a little spicier, so you can tone that down by taking some things out that you maybe don't care for. The reason it's a little spicier is this pork really has a contrast in flavor with the salted caramel and the sweet dark cherry glaze. So it really sets both of them flavors off very well. I'm serving this with a Sauvignon Blanc. This is a 2018 Sauvignon Blanc, so it's crisp, still fairly young, and it's a little dry. We want to tend to stay away from the sweeter wines, serving a sweeter glaze like that. So any dry red, any dark red, robust flavor red, or any dry white or medium dry white that you care for would go very, very well with this. So tonight is Sauvignon Blanc. Let's get started with first the crown roast. Your butcher can do that for you. We do ours here as a carving station. It's a presentation type dish. Those of you that believe you don't need a quarantine, or those of you that are having some family over this year, or those of you next year that are going to serve this dish, this crown rack that we're showing will serve up to 25 people. There's 22 bones here. You don't have to cut as you're carving along each bone. Not everybody likes a full 10-ounce portion of roasted pork crown, so some of these could be cut a little smaller, or maybe you have some children around. So that's why I say this serves 25 people. It's 2 flat racks of pork that have been tied together. So after we season both the inside and the outside and French these bones, there's some treatment that we do to the bones to make them really shiny and nice like that. So we just rub them down with a little oil and then cover them with foil as they bake. To wrap these, we're using butcher's twine. This is what it looks like if you buy it like we do. Chefs buy quite a bit of this for many different reasons. But this is butcher's twine. You could use anything similar to that. I have most of this already tied off, but I did want to show you one. Again, you can get this from your butcher already done, but if you'd like to venture out and do your own, watch what happens when I just tighten it. It pops right up and gives you that really nice crown look. I don't know if you can see that. I'll do it one more time. So that's how tight you want to tie that. And the more times that you can really get that shape, the better that's going to look in the end. I'm just going to keep it short, so I just tied one for you. Another thing that I like to do is put some aromatics into the roast along with the crust to give this quite a bit of flavor. Okay, so I do have some quartered onions. I do have some bay leaves. I do have some celery. This is some green onion that we're going to put in there. Anything aromatic that we can really get down into the center of that crown roast and kind of add a lot of body as this all starts to develop. Another thing I like to do is take the entire head of garlic, and we'll just cut off the end of that, just like that. I like to put that face down, right on top, right inside that crown roast. What'll happen is this garlic's gonna get really soft and brown and roasted as this goes. We'll take some olive oil and drizzle over the top of this to keep it moist as we can, but we're really just gonna put that right into the bottom there. And what happens is as that garlic softens and roasts, it's going to kind of ooze out into the pork. So we get some really nice flavor from that. Something very simple like that can really make a big difference. If you roast this at 425 degrees for the first 8 minutes, what you're gonna do, and if you watch a lot of our cooking videos, a lot of my cooking videos, you'll see I roast meats a lot of the similar way. Not necessarily preparing the same way, but the beginning roast temperature is usually pretty high. And then I drop that way down really low and let slow roast do its thing. So what happens then is the juices get sealed in on the outside and have no place to escape. So 425 degrees for 8 minutes, down to 275, or you can do 300 degrees. The recipe I have attached is 275. Until you reach an internal temperature, it's going to be about 2.5 to 3 hours. Internal temperature, deep inside of the core of the crown, needs to be at least around 155 degrees if you really like a well done pork. I prefer going to 145 and letting it rest at room temperature for about 20 minutes. And that gives me time to prepare the glaze. It gives me time to do some other things. What happens to that pork is it starts to relax and release all those juices that are now sealed in because we started at a real high temp and gave it an oven sear, that's what it's called. So it becomes really juicy and moist. And then we can present that in all sorts of different ways. But that's the crown roast. This foil is just real simple, just a little foil over the top. There are some nifty things you can buy, little chef hats that you can put on top, and a number of different things. But most folks at home, this will be the easiest way to achieve what we're trying to do there, is not blacken these bones as they roast, but leave them nice and white for more or less presentation purpose, okay? And it does leave kind of a bitter flavor if they do burn. So let's get into the glaze. This is the really fun piece of this sauce. This is a salted caramel, dark sweet cherry glaze. So the first thing that I'm gonna start with is I'm just gonna blanch a little bit of this onion and a tiny bit of this salted caramel just to get it started. And what's gonna happen is that's gonna become translucent. I have some cinnamon stick. So I like to get that in there very early. Cinnamon stick, the whole cinnamon stick. We're gonna pull that out. You're not gonna bite into that later. We're gonna end up pulling that right out. So what's happening is as this warms up, the onions become translucent. The cinnamon flavor really starts to jump out. I have, maybe our camera person here can get in there a little closer. I have some chopped juniper. That's gonna give this a real nice spice and kind of a earthy flavor. I leave that kind of coarse chop. You get a little surprise when you're trying that as we glaze that and you start trying some of that different pieces. A lot of the pan drippings that you use from the crown could really go in there right at this point. This is a really fun, very easy sauce to do. I have some dark sweet cherries. You can buy these Bing cherries and cook them down, or you can buy these canned dark sweet cherries, whatever you like. If I didn't like whiskey, I wouldn't put any in there. Me personally, I love whiskey. The alcohol is going to cook off and dissipate. So as you can see, the onions are becoming a little translucent. We're just going to soften those cherries up a little bit without smashing them. They've already been pitted. Be real careful that you don't get cherries that have not been pitted. You can hurt yourself biting into those. So now we're at the point where we're going to do a couple of things here. I'm going to not just use one whiskey, but I'm going to use two whiskeys. The reason I do that is, this is a higher end Buffalo Trace whiskey. The reason I do that is there's so much sweet flavor coming out of this that I don't want it to just taste like sugar. I want to taste that bourbon. I want to taste that flavor. So I have some Buffalo Trace, and now we'll go ahead and we'll let that just dissipate a little bit and reduce down. What happens is we're intensifying the flavors. And now this is the salted caramel whiskey. That's really going to be a key component to what we're doing. So if you haven't seen this yet, this is terrific. It goes really well with cherry. I love to cook with this. I don't necessarily partake in drinking it, but I do love to cook with it. So it's just a wonderful flavor. It's a new, very popular whiskey that's out there. I'm going about a quarter cup or so. And we got a real nice simmer going on. Just a little bit of black pepper. And you can see what's happening right inside there. It's starting to reduce. We got a nice little flambe. That's just the alcohol that's dissipating. Basically disappearing, cooking off, okay? And then here we are. We have our glaze. So the further you reduce that, the thicker that's naturally going to become. What we do to serve this is just ladle that right over the top of the crown roast before we carve, or whatever your family tradition is. And this is the holiday crown roasted pork with salted caramel and sweet cherry glaze. Well, my name is Chef Carton. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the comments, and I know it's been a very tough year and a very tough fall, and we're all looking forward to a much happier 2021. So I appreciate you watching the videos and participating, and I love cooking with all of you, and Happy New Year.